habitualize a value creator culture
Exactly.
through the rhythm of the execution. The vision creates the context, the why. The goals and rocks create the how. The rhythm keeps it going.
Exactly. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snider. Hanging out today with a very special guest. I think many people know her inside of the EPI community and well beyond. Our friend, Renee. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me
Thank you
here.
for flying all the way into town and hanging out with Team EPI for a couple of days.
You're welcome. It's almost just over halfway to Australia.
We always laugh. I asked her to come into town like maybe a couple months ago. She's like, Scott, can you put more stuff around this trip so I can really leverage the long flight? But I think we did well this time.
You did great. Thank
Yeah.
you. And thanks for dinner last night, too.
Of course. Yeah, it was great. So in our season of the Exit Is Now podcast, this season of the Exit Is Now podcast, we've been following along with what we call a value creator culture for both business owners and the employees. So we've been running through these 4 buckets that we've been loosely talking about. And in our previous shows, we've been focused on the first major component. We had Fred Johnson and Ben Utek on, and we really concentrated on mentality. So the stuff that makes us tick, makes us go, what we believe in. We talked about trust accelerators, core values, documenting culture, scaling culture, and all of that stuff. And with you as my guest, I wanted to come in and talk about the 2 more of the 4 buckets. And I'm going to talk on our first show together about vision. And then we want to talk about how we kind of put that vision into action, which we would call rhythm. So I think we just start with the vision and go from there. So I would say start at the top. Why do you believe vision is so important for companies, knowing that, at least here in the States, it's something crazy like 46% of business owners are reporting that they have a vision. But it's not written. And something like 14% of companies operate with no vision at all. And just a quick story before you answer, because I think it'll tee it up.
Mm-hmm.
One of our family friends had owned she owned a business with her dad, and I always remember our dads got together and she said, "Hey, Scott, can you sit down with me and talk about, your dad always talks about how you're kind of running this business vision and rhythm, right?" And she didn't call it that back then, but it was basically that. Mm-hmm. And I told her like what my thoughts were and what we're trying to do at EPI, our company. And she goes, "That's so interesting. Like, we just kind of walk in every day and like we know what to do, so we do it." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "Well, when do you get your team together? Is it like a huddle, like a company-wide meeting?" And she goes, "No, people know what to do. I don't know why you would need to do that." And I'm like, "Well, where do you want to go? Like, you have like a 1-year plan, but what's the 5-year? What's the 10-year? Like, where are we going?" And she's like, "I don't know. That's you." Was kind of driven by my dad, but I don't know. Like, we have a good business. And they do have a good business, but in our world, they probably don't have a value-centric business. But so let's rewind and start at the top. Why is vision so important for companies?
Mm-hmm. I really have found over my career of being a business operating system specialist, coaching entrepreneurs to take their business to the next level, the importance of them getting ultra clear with where they want to go to the team so that they can see that future reality. And then it creates focus and helps that team, particularly the leadership team, prioritize effort strategically because they all understand where we're trying to go. In a situation where there isn't vision, effort goes in 1,000 different directions. And it's very hard to focus human effort and move it systematically forward to a designated destination. And so the vision is important to create the focus and to prioritize, because I love that saying, when everything's important, nothing's important.
Exactly.
And so the vision creates that focal point. I grew up on saltwater coastal lakes where we would go as a family. And my dad taught me to drive the boat at about 6 years old. And it was always like long passages. And so he would say, "See that mountain over there?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." "And see that white light?" And I would say, "Yeah." And he's like, "Drive the boat there." And for hours, I would drive the boat there. I think he might have been fishing off the back and whatever, whatever. But it's no surprise that my predictive index is captain. And I'm like, I wonder where I got that from. But the focus helps you then be much more intentional about where you put your effort, what you prioritize. And so when an entrepreneur is imparting their vision upon a business, uh, they are helping the team come into alignment and focus on the effort that's necessary to get there. Now, it's not easy. And I
Right.
can see why a lot of founders struggle with that because it's very vulnerable. It's showing like all the imperfect aspects of the things you haven't figured out yet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's vulnerable because you're revealing a lot about who you are and what motivates you.
Hmm.
But what I've found is I'm a three-time mother. It's like a birthing process. And though painful, it's worth it because the vision then takes on a life form of its own.
Mm.
And then everybody understands how to come around it and care for it. And so the business vision becomes the identity, the core, the soul, and the directionality for a business owner to impart upon their team. And they frankly will never realize their true potential, um, their true vision, unless it is shared,
Of course.
loved, and executed by all. So it's important.
I think it's also when I get down the vision train too, I think about from the buyer's perspective. So we talk about a lot of that, right, in value acceleration and inside of the EPI community,
Mhm.
that when you eventually go to sell your company, though you might be successful over those years without a vision, I think what the buyer is in part looking for is, well, where are you not today or even 5 years, but what's this business look like in 10 years?
Mhm.
Is it? Would you agree that also as important at the end to see like again what's 10 years from now look like, Scott, not
Mhm.
just the next 3 or 5?
Absolutely. I've had many a client say, like, feel guilty that we're going into vision planning and annual planning, and they're like, "But Renee, I'm going to sell the business in 2 years from now. Why?
Exactly.
Why do we have a 10-year target? It feels unethical." I'm like, the business has that vision now. The team owns that vision. It's a roadmap to
Hmm.
the future of this business, and a buyer is buying the future of the company.
Exactly
They're
right.
not buying the past. The past gives them confidence that of the capability of this company to perform at a baseline. But what they're buying is the future capabilities. And when that vision is clear and owned by the team,
Hmm.
and that is a beautiful place because then we have an owner independent business and a vision that is shared by all and executed with alignment and discipline. So the vision is super important. The 10-year is what we typically call in the business operating space a singular North Star, a
Exactly.
destination that is elevated, almost bodacious,
Hmm.
like how could we possibly get there? But then if you do the work back, if we exponentially leverage more human capabilities, sell more to our customers, get more supply, better supply terms, and expand our impact, we can get there. And so the 10-year is that peg. And what that does is set a pace and a level of um intensity. So if the 10-year target is exponentially bigger than where we are right now, that triggers in the leadership team that we're going to have to do business differently, smarter, faster. They have a higher appetite to adopt AI, technology, efficiencies, robotics.
Yeah.
The 3-year picture becomes a really powerful place where we can see ourselves landing on the third year of that 10-year journey.
Hmm. Yep.
And so the 3-year picture becomes this very clear and compelling photograph of what the business looks like.
Hmm.
Some measurables, targets, but also a holistic picture of what the company looks like. So then the team can do the math around the capabilities, i.e., value, we need to create in the business to get there. What that does is create a value creating team. And so the 3-year picture is important. And I always get the leadership team to individually state what my role in this company looks like 3 years from now. And then I go silent. And the amazing things they say, one person's like, I'm going to be the COO of this company.
Hmm.
And the owner's like, oh, shit. Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Sorry for swearing.
Yeah.
Succession planning needs to be a thing.
Yeah.
Or we should be operating in South America by then. And everyone's like, oh, okay. So it reveals a lot of new opportunity, but it pegs the leadership team into that future reality, and it creates this intrinsic hook.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can compensate. We do this. We adjust their employee agreements in the exit planning process and make
Yeah.
sure that they're pegged to a long-term incentive. But nothing beats an intrinsic connection to that future reality of the business. And so the 3-year picture is very, very important to create that pull towards the future. And when they all see it, energy starts to align and amazing things happen.
Hmm.
One last thing on that,
Sure.
when we talk about value creator company, this needs to go out to the wider company,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And so when the leadership team stand up in front of the wider company in unison and preach the same picture and the same destination, it creates psychological safety.
Mm-hmm.
And it increases the wider team's confidence that this business is still going to be standing and my job is secure.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yes.
creates amazing buy-in all the way down to the apprentice. So
Yeah. So, what would you say to the owner? Because you talked about 3 and 5. So, I guess for me, like I'm doing this, I'm thinking about this because it's a part of a round table, an owner's round table that I'm actually doing here locally that they asked me to come in and do. And
I love
And it-
business owner roundtables. I do them too.
I mean, it's really cool. The reason I said I was going to do it because it's a small group of only 20 owners, and they're all in their 40s or 50s. So
Great.
basically, my group of folks. And so I don't get to spend enough time with owners, right? Because my world is supporting our advisory community. So I said, sure, it's local, I'll do it. And one of the things they wanted me to talk about is what we're talking about right now is vision. So we started to take some feedback, and I would say almost all of the owners in the group said, I'm really good with 3 to 5. Like, boom, I could, the 1 year strategy, we got that. 3 years out, I can tell you that. 5 years out, I could probably tell you that. But a 10-year vision, like, I don't even know what the hell's going to go on in 10 years. How do you want me? How would I? They're like, Scott, I don't even know where to start.
Mhm.
So how do you navigate that when you're with owners? Maybe I can take some coaching points for next week.
Yeah. The tenure it's really interesting. Every team that I work with grabs that differently, hears different things, and owners have a hard time with it. It really is born out of the founder typically, or the primary owner, and it's tied to their legacy. And so why that's hard is because they have a hard time thinking about the fact that I'm not going to be here.
Right.
And it brings up a lot of things for them. And they don't also want to lead the team astray.
Mm.
So they simultaneously recognize I'm not going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's going to be owning the business. I don't want to lead the team down the garden path. But what they don't realize is they're missing an important part of the vision. If you look at Jim Collins' work, the hedgehog concept, it talks about, what we love to do, what the intrinsic, like the purpose, what we're truly great at, which is really tied to the niche, the thing that we do. The other part is that profit driving mechanism that drives the health and performance of the business. I often suggest that we peg our 10-year target to that, because we can have all the purpose and meaning and the positioning that we want, but if we don't understand what the core result is that we must hit as a business to drive the future health of the company, it's a miss. So, for example, I've got car dealerships, a lot of them.
Okay.
And everybody across that dealership, it's like they run 3 different companies. They've got the sales team, they've got the F&I team, and then they've got the service team. Sometimes they also have the auto body, which is 4 almost unique businesses in one. And rallying them all around the fact that they all do one thing, which is sell cars, was game-changing for them. Because even the service guy realized that sales sells the first car, service sells the second and the third and the fourth. Right?
Yeah.
The auto body shop, when a car's in, it's pretty banged up. They're the ones that say, have you considered upgrading? So like
Yeah.
everybody ultimately sells cars, and the car doesn't go off the lot until the F&I, the finance team, have done their work. So everybody's doing one thing. And so what it does is break down barriers between different departments when they all understand that singular driving force of our business.
Mm.
I have found the more clear and specific and measurable it is, the better. Then we reduce the ambiguity. Being the best in our market, the go-to company for
Yeah.
this, I call BS. I'm going to try not to swear anymore. I call BS on that because it's not measurable.
Hmm.
And it doesn't set a pace and a focus the way something measurable does.
Do you go deeper on that too? So say, look, I want to be a $50 million company in the next 10 years. Would you challenge me to go even deeper than that with X number of customers, with X revenue per employee, or with X net profit, with X
Mm.
margins?
Mhm.
How deep would you say I would go on that
Mhm.
tenure?
Yeah. Well, so a lot of when we don't have a clear, compelling, measurable thing like selling cars,
Yeah.
often they land on revenue.
Okay.
Right. And so then people want to do the modeling. But what they don't recognize is the way we monetize can change
Yeah.
significantly in the future.
Exactly.
That's why all we do is take that one measure and focus on the 3 year.
Okay.
Because a 3 year cycle is really where that leadership team foreseeably will be still here.
Hmm.
The owner will probably still be
Yeah.
here. Even when they're not, ensuring that that team can run that business confidently for that 3 year space is important. What that does, the 10 year simply does is give context around what matters, and it gets them thinking strategically about the 3 year. So I don't go deep anywhere else than the 3 year picture.
Mm-hmm.
The 10, you can model all you want, but I mean, we could be selling cars online fully,
Yeah, you
doing
could.
virtual
Yeah.
tours.
Yes.
And so thinking about, or how we even service could be robotics. This could be a lot of things that I've just found the priorities best placed on the 3 year picture.
Yeah. See, then I think that brings a lot of insight because again, this is where the owners struggle. I think where like shoot, like to your point, they think they start to. I think the owner starts to naturally get down inside of their craft, right? And they go, well, shoot, if I need to sell $20 million worth of cars, like maybe we need to be fully online by that point. And you're saying just slow down, put the big number out there, and then let's get into the nitty gritty, if you will,
Mhm.
in the 3 and maybe even the 5 year plan
Mhm.
because and I think that's where they get more comfortable.
Mhm.
But that 3 and 5 year plan, and for our audience listening and bringing together this first segment of vision, right? So it's maybe 10 years or 15 years. It's down to a 5 year strategy, a 3 year strategy, and this 1 year plan. That's really where you get into the nitty gritty. And you can look. I feel confident in my own business that we have the right team, strategies, tools, resources. Uh, the team, all of that to hit the 3 year target, and then all the way down the P&L and across all strategic initiatives. I do feel
Mhm.
confident in that, and I
Mhm.
think that you could rally people around that. And to your point, and I think a big point that Renee mentioned is likely the owner is still around, right? Or the driving force of
Mhm.
this vision is still around.
The business that we know it is very much representative of a value enhanced, more capable version of what it is today.
Right.
And the
Right.
3 year, we always do in my work rolling 3 years.
Right.
So every
Hmm.
annual planning, we're pushing another 3 years out. So it keeps the team highly entrepreneurial and proactive. When you said we were going to talk about vision today,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, it's very important to recognize the vision creates a bias to proactive action.
Hmm.
It also incentivizes working on the business because this vision is just an hallucination or a deception if we can't really truly execute on it
Hmm.
with confidence. So it's very important to create the focus, but it really drives the prioritized execution from there.
How do you feel about bringing in so you talked about being inside the world of operating systems. You're also obviously in this world of value driving. And so again, going back to this owner group, the biggest aha moment in my like prep for them in this owners roundtable is you guys are all talking about the successful components. Like I want to sell 20,000 cars, or I want to be a $50 million business, or I want to be in 7 different states, whatever that might be in the 10 year vision. Where do you start to overlay some of the value? So I'm at a I'm at a 5 multiple right now. I want to be at a 10 multiple in 10 years. Are you talking about that at this stage too, or is it too early? Are you doing, I guess, successful kind of planning and significant planning? Are you
Mhm.
overlaying value into everything that you're doing as
Mhm.
well?
When I started my journey as an EOS implementer, I
Mm.
didn't know I was in the industry of exit planning
Yeah. Yeah.
until a bunch of my clients started selling, and I started to clue in that I was having some level of impact on that.
Mm.
And they would always say, EOS really got us over the line. We talked about it in the management decks and so on and so forth. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when I came to EPI with an imminent need of a client who wanted me to help him sell his company,
Mhm.
it opened my eyes
Mm.
completely. And what I didn't realize is because I was helping them create a clear and confident 3-year picture with all the intangible aspects of the business in the future stated in
Mhm.
a very clear way. I was actually helping them understand value enhancement
Mm.
and helping them recognize they needed to expand the team, grow leaders from within, document processes, track stronger data, integrate technology, leverage stronger supply chain. We were doing all these things when we were painting
Mhm.
a holistic picture of the business, naming all the intangibles that I now know drive the four capitals.
Exactly.
So it wasn't ever really coming from a place of understanding the four capitals or even value from the outside looking in, but it was
Mm.
out of need to build capabilities in order
Mhm.
to get to the 3-year picture. Now I reverse engineer my process.
Okay.
What I also learned was we were birthing the vision from the leadership team.
Mm. Mhm.
And leaders get to come and go, but owners don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leaders get paid. Sometimes owners get paid. Well, they work with us, they
Yeah.
do. Uh, but they all their capital largely is invested in that business. They
100%.
take
Yeah.
on all the risk. They deploy their capital. And so, in order to achieve this vision, yes, there's an optimistic side of it, but it requires retaining capital in the business, deploying more capital in the business. And so, we need to be understanding why we should deploy capital, why should we invest in the business. And we need to make sure that that vision is in alignment with what the owner wants.
Mm. Yeah.
And so now I birth the vision, even if they're working with an implementer and they
Mhm.
think they have a company vision. I don't call it a strategically aligned vision. I say it's a working draft.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's hear from what the owner needs this business to look like to achieve their personal financial goals. Bring those two worlds together and do the work to align the team with it. But no longer do I condone birthing that vision from the leadership team.
Mm.
In the EOS world, there is a phenomenon. This might be a bit of a rabbit hole, but there's a phenomenon of the crazy visionary. We're a little crazy.
Yeah.
I get it. Wild in our thoughts. We very much live in the future and so forth. But what I discovered when I started to study that was that in more cases than not, it was a distressed owner
Mhm.
not getting what they wanted,
Hmm.
not heard, and not confident that that vision for the company would get them where they wanted to go,
Hmm.
and that the team were not invested in helping them achieve their goals. So they had a lot of unaddressed needs.
Okay.
And we would always say that all goes in the owner's box. And I was like, well, what happens in the owner's box? And I realized value acceleration methodology
Yeah.
should be happening in the owner's box. But bringing those two worlds together and getting the owner clear on their vision personally and for the business, ultimately, they birthed this baby. They
Yes.
should have a say. And then bringing that vision to the leadership team, aligning them with it, centering around that 3-year picture, then creates the capacity for the leadership team to deploy a confident and strategic 1-year plan
Mm.
and rocks.
Yep.
But they
Right.
have to meet in the middle with the 3-year picture.
Okay.
And so I've learned now start with the owner's vision, align with the team, then they basically run the budget and the working on the business goals for the year. Keeping the owner connected to the operating team is very important. When they go separate ways, bad things start to happen.
Yeah. So go deeper then. So you talked about leadership teams. How do you feel about getting all employees involved in vision creation for the company?
Um, It sounds nice.
It
There,
does, right? Okay.
there are some aspects of the vision that we want input and contribution from the team.
Okay.
We also want to source some of those inputs from data. So when I create a vision, it's a 2-page document. Other operating system methodologies sometimes use one, and your dad has an approach as well.
Yep.
And so what I recognize is that the vision is made up of multiple ingredients. And so when I work with an owner and their team, I say, we're going to unpack this burger. All the layers of the burger are important, but let's take the tomato out, the burger out, the cheese out, and just unpack this and make sure that they are all clear and
Okay.
compelling ingredients. And then we bring it together in this 2-page document. If that is done well, Scott, that vision flows and sings like a song sheet.
Hmm.
Everything is in alignment. And the more aligned it is, the easier energy flows, human effort flows in alignment with that vision. So we need to pull out the values, and you've done some work with Ben and other
Yeah.
people. Imparting the owner's value system is important, and bringing in input from the leadership team and the wider company is important, because particularly as the company gets bigger and an owner sometimes gets a little bit more operationally removed from the business,
Yeah.
they can lose a pulse on the front line, the feel in the company. So input from the wider team is important, but ultimately this needs to be determined by the owners and key operator leadership team. The purpose and the positioning are typically born out of the founder. So there's different places where contribution happens. When we talk about the positioning, the ideal customer, why they choose us, your frontline staff are often at the heartbeat of the customer relationship.
Yeah.
And so that is a really great place for frontline staff and or all levels of the organization to contribute. What does the feedback say? What does the customer data say? What was the last thing your customers said about out working with us? So there are places where the intangible contributions to the vision can be drawn successfully from the wider company. But at the end of the day, it's like a hockey team. There's a GM, the owner,
Sure.
and there's a coaching team. There's typically a head coach. We would call them an integrator or COO. And then there's a coaching staff, defense, whatever. My daughter's in defense. And so the leadership team need to align with the coaches, and they need to align with the GM and make sure that they ultimately have clear direction and clear vision. It doesn't mean the player's voice doesn't matter. We just need to be strategic around how we integrate that. Then the leadership team, when it's clear and compelling, that 2-page plan, their mandate is to repeat it often.
Okay.
It takes up to 7 times before someone even hears you the first time. So when a leadership team's like, well, we've been saying the same thing every quarter, Renee. And I'm like, how many quarters exactly? They're like 3. I'm like, okay, keep going.
Perfect. Yeah.
'Cause
Double it.
the person who was there at the first meeting is still not even heard you. And then the new staff that started last week hasn't heard this yet.
Yeah.
So this needs to be a perpetual habit, making sure the vision is shared by all, not just in our words, but in our actions. So doing what we say with the 1-year plan and rocks is important, because it builds integrity around the vision too, and people buy into it.
So is that where you start to get the employees involved a little bit deeper, given some of them might actually be a champion of a big rock? We find at EPI is our employees contribute to the 1-year and the 3-year strategy in simple exercises like a start-stop exercise, right? What should we start doing that we're not doing today? What should we stop doing because it's either harming the business or providing no value? And what should we keep doing? Something that we're doing well, and we should amplify that. And then we look at it from 2 different perspectives, right? Our internal perspective, like as employees, and then if we were in our customer shoes. And so even a simple exercise like that, in my opinion, could actually contribute to strategy. What we do at our company is we take all of that. As you can imagine, we get 52 opinions, what we should start, stop, and keep doing. We then vote on it as a group of 52 people, what were the best ideas. So we can dumb that down to 2 to 3 best ideas. And then we actually take that into our executive retreat. So, and that's where we say, sometimes we don't agree, right? As an executive team, like we get it, but that's not the direction we're going. Or we go, man, that was really enlightening. I didn't know that was going on. To your point, we have frontline people working with our members every day.
Correct.
we should consider that. Is that fair to say? Those are those strategy
Absolutely.
building activities that you would recommend or
Absolutely.
ideas?
SWOT exercises, start, stop
Yeah.
exercises. Patrick Lencioni has a book,
Mm,
Silos, Politics, and Turf Wars.
okay.
And it talks about getting cross functional teams together to talk
Mm,
about issues, where our barriers, where our bottlenecks are, silos exist, and then building a thematic goal or a series of small number of goals around breaking down those barriers.
mm, mhm.
And so I've seen cross functional all the way to frontline exercises done like this very well. I've done it in a plumbing and HVAC company.
Mm,
Uh, they, again, like a car dealership, are running kind of multiple approaches to business. They can get siloed, and breaking down those barriers through cross collaboration is important. It says to the staff that their voice matters.
yeah. Yeah.
It creates intrinsic connection to the business as well,
Yeah.
and an appetite to embrace change.
Yeah.
So rocks, goals and rocks, contribution is one thing, but also participation in the doing
Yeah.
is important. And what that does is habitualize, and I know we'll talk about this later, habitualize a value creator culture
Exactly.
through the
Yeah.
rhythm of the execution. The vision creates the context, the why.
Mm,
The goals and rocks create the how. The rhythm keeps it going.
exactly right.
Hey there, business owners. Are you ready for a game-changing opportunity? Introducing the 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Report. Over the past decade, this groundbreaking research has reshaped how we view business ownership and exit planning. This report isn't just another study, it's a deep dive into the evolution of business ownership. It shines a spotlight on the crucial intersection of business attractiveness and owner readiness, revealing the undeniable impact of preparation on achieving successful transitions. With younger generations taking the reins, exit planning is taking on a whole new perspective. Education and awareness about preparing for the future have never been more crucial. And with financial readiness leading the charge, there's a clear opportunity for growth and learning. But here's the kicker. The report shows a surge in exit planning education and understanding, yet many still lack formal transition teams, highlighting the essential role of comprehensive support. So who's got your back? Trusted advisors have evolved from CPAs to financial advisors, making a decade of significant change in support networks. Ready to take the next step towards a successful exit? Dive into the Exit Planning Institute's 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Report and start shaping your legacy today. The future is knocking. Are you ready to answer? Discover your readiness level at 2023ownerreadiness.com and take the first step towards a successful and significant exit.
Are you a business owner seeking to unlock the true potential of your enterprise? Look no further than the second edition of Christopher Snider's revolutionary book, Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. In this updated edition, Snider presents proven strategies for maximizing your company's value and accelerating growth. Whether you're aiming to sell or simply want to ensure long-term success, this book offers a blueprint for building a thriving, self-sustaining business. Walking to Destiny isn't just another book, it's a game changer, backed by Snider's own experience as a successful business owner and as a CPA. This book bridges the gap between business owners and advisors, guiding you towards financial freedom. But don't just take our word for it. Hear from those whose lives have been transformed by its insights. One satisfied reader raves, "The best guide for transitioning out of privately owned companies. I recommend it to all business owners and advisors." Another praises it on its focus for maximizing business value, calling it their, quote, principal tool for educating owners. Ready to take control of your business's destiny? Visit walkingtodestiny.com now and use code EXITISNOW to claim your free copy of Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect by seizing this opportunity today.
So I want to go even a step deeper now, and here's the interesting part for me. And we've talked about this before, and I this is where I start to lose people. So I want to see your opinion. So for the audience, right, we're trying to unpack the vision bucket, and I'm using our own business and how we create value creator employees at EPI. So we certainly have vision at EPI. We have a 5-year strategy. We have a really great 3-year strategy, and then we have a 1-year strategy plan, right? We have the rocks. We have all of that stuff. And our employees are getting involved in that on a regular basis. And we have platforms for them to talk through that. Where I start to lose advisors along the way with me is I actually want to take it even a step deeper in vision and tie them to the P&L of the company. So I can see the 10-year, right, that big number that's out there or whatever that 10-year vision is. I can see the 3-year strategy and I believe in it. And I'm like, well, we can definitely, we do these types of things. We move these chess pieces. We can make that happen. I'm totally tied into the 1 year. I might even have an incentive plan or embracing this 1 year. But now I want to know how if I'm a true owner mindset and a value creator, I feel like I need to have some level of transparency into the way the business operates, because I think that's the difference between frankly, a regular employee that shows up, Renee, from 8 to 5, and one that goes, man, I might do my 8 to 5 a little bit differently because I'm actually affecting EBITDA of this company. So what do you think, though? Because I'm like 50-50 with my advisors. They're like, Scott, you're crazy. Why would you do that? And then other folks are saying, wow, that's a level of transparency that maybe we should be giving to our employees if they're going to be owner mindset.
Yeah. I would say, in my experience, transparency builds trust.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
And so with mindful, very thoughtfully executed pathways to transparency, in my client experience, it's game changing. And the car dealerships have taught me a lot of this. They are so data driven. Everybody understands what creates gross margin in every function of the business. And they understand between gross margin and net profit is how we run the business, and the non-revenue generating factors, the cost centers of the business impact that. So the entire company understands that. And what that does is create a very driven, competitive, focused behavior that is very data driven. Well, the nice thing about data is the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And when we can foster financial acumen, which is a precursor, requires a lot of education.
Yeah, you put a star out there for our listeners right now, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying just throw the P&L out there. I'm saying that we should have regular sessions, and again, our next episode together we'll talk about rhythm. A part of that rhythm is regular education sessions for all employees.
Correct.
So with that in mind, I'm saying I'm assuming that we're doing that so that the people, the folks at the company understand revenue, cost of goods sold, operating expenses, net profit, and all the other jargon and terms that make up, and to your point, the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet.
Correct.
And then we're actively sharing to some level with the employees. But
yeah,
I totally
it's
agree
great
with you.
behavior to model. And what it does is help us create an environment where everybody understands the unit economics of the business, what turns the cogs. And they, rather than just having that one number that they're responsible for, they can see more of the cockpit of all the dials that turn the cogs of the business. So they're much more incented to address issues, call things out, name things. They recognize when I'm not showing up at work, the impact to results for that day. So it creates a more disciplined culture. And people have more understanding around, inputs and outputs of the business. What we're also doing is creating an ownership mindset, i.e. value creator mindset.
Yeah.
And in many cases, like some of the stats, I'm retaking my CFA exam. First generation business owners favor internal transfers more than 50%. It's like 60%.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
And then second generation owners favor internal transfer approximately 82% of the time.
Bingo. Test question.
Okay,
right.
great.
Look
I'm
at
going to pass
that.
the exam.
Bingo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like 68 and 82, something like that. What that got me thinking, and with this succession wave, succession tsunami of $14 trillion worth of companies in America that need to transition in the next 5 or so years, we need to create ownership mentality as a mandate, because our future owners may well be inside of the business.
Well, of that 82% that are of the second generation, that was like the aha moment for me. So I would assume, right, 82% of family-owned businesses, second generation owners though, would just sell to their sons and daughters or cousins or whatever. But when you dialed in that 82% and you looked at that or dissected it, most of them actually want to sell to their employees. So it's not
Management, ESOPs.
some kind of a employee collaborative, whatever that might be. They want to be able to sell, and there's a whole wide variety of reasons for that. But to your point, I think, what does that do for exits in our country, right? So to your point, it's almost by mandate. We have to start treating our employees differently than generations or decades before us.
Correct.
Because I actually think they also want more. They seek purpose in their work. They look for core values. They don't want, I think most people that are 20, 30, 40 don't want to just show up they want to make sure that they want to know that they're doing something of value. And so it just makes sense that there's now this big shift with exit planning. That's why I'm going down this track of making value creator employees, because I'm like, I realize in my own business, what we're doing is Dad changed my mindset from owner operator at a landscaping company to value creator at our current company. And then I think what me, Dad, and our executive team are doing is bringing that knowledge all the way down. And so now it's really cool for me, because I'm a wild entrepreneur, that I can actually, even though they're not necessarily owners, I get along with everybody so well because I'm like, you guys, we're all thinking the same. It's a super powerful experience, honestly. And I think it's one of the reasons, EPI can grow and position and retain employees like we have over the last 5 years.
Exactly. Couple of things. I'm thinking long term. I have 3 teenagers, 17, 17, and 14. And I'm thinking to myself, how do they build wealth in the future?
Sure.
We live in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Very expensive market. There's no way to make money in real estate. Their dad made some money in real estate. My kids are not. The capital markets are very turbulent, and you have to put a lot in and hold it long term. And there's no kind of quick turnaround there. Sometimes it's 10 plus years before you have a payoff. What I see with my kids is the opportunity for them to embrace entrepreneurial thinking and either acquire or earn equity in their future employers, or acquire other companies that are needing to sell. My boys, by their mid-20s, I could see that happening. Fortunately, they've got a good coach. And so with that, I feel like the pathway to stabilizing the North American economies, because there are many within that geography, is through creating wealth through equity, as a byproduct of employment.
Yeah.
So we stabilize economy, reduce the dependency on government services and so forth, and create more independent wealth creators.
Totally.
And if we address the $14 trillion succession tsunami, the next generation of business owners, I believe, are going to be what John Warlow would call mountain climbers. They'll buy, fix, sell, buy, fix, sell.
Oh, the boomerang exits.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we need to foster buyer mentality. And the greatest thing you could do as a value creator company, is build ownership mentality, and teach your people how the P&L and balance sheet work and the inputs and outputs of running a business. And when they leave you in 3 to 5 years from now, they say, I'm going out to buy a company and you've taught me everything I need to know. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Well, I think that would be wild, right? I think that's the.
But if we hold the P&L.
Yeah.
And we don't show the numbers, we don't create transparency, we don't give them the skills to be wealth creators. And that is some of the greatest value we can create for our people.
So, we've spent a lot of time talking about the business, and as SEPAs, as value creators ourselves, we can't finish the story without talking about personal financial and personal planning. And so obviously a big topic inside of the EPI and exit planning world right now, primarily focused on the owner. But I sub business for career, maybe. Like we might keep business in there because, to your point, they might go out and buy businesses. But I think for us at EPI, we say, okay, take business and say it's career, personal, and personal financial. Because even your employee has a personal life, like a personal goal, and they certainly have personal financial plans. So when we're talking about vision, strategy building, how are you bringing in, or should we be bringing in, I think the answer is yes, the support for our employees to think across all three legs. What am I
Mhm.
doing in my business or my career to advance myself and grow market value for myself? What am I doing in my personal plan, right? Do I have purpose? Am I looking out 10 years? Where do I want to be? And do I actually have a financial advisor? Because I stand to make some pretty good money if I'm a value creator employee. I'm going to make more money than the next person. I should probably invest in it. Is that fair to say that we should all be looking at that three-legged stool concept?
Absolutely. I've been working with a couple of firms recently, an engineering firm and an architectural firm.
Okay.
And they're talking about like the path to the principal, like the ladder to equity.
Hmm.
And for the last decade and a half, they've been thinking about this very late in the journey when people are fairly matured and the associate is now knocking on the door to
Hmm.
become a principal and want to
Yeah.
buy in.
Yep.
And the hard truth is 9 times out of 10, they don't have money.
Mm.
They haven't been working their ladder to equity journey in a holistic way. They've had this expectation if I stay, it's up for grabs, but we turn around, they don't have the financial reserves
Mm.
to buy in. They
Mhm.
have to rely on acquire a smaller percentage, which gives them very little influence anyway. And they need financing
Exactly right.
because they didn't plan ahead, because nobody was starting at the internship level saying, our hope is that you will pursue this ladder to equity. And along the way, we're going to insist that you use these resources for personal planning and consult with our preferred provider, financial advisor, to ensure that you're doing everything you need to do in advance of the acquisition of equity to set yourself up for success. So
Mm.
they've dangled it as a
Yeah.
lure to keep people,
Yeah.
but they haven't set them up for success.
Mm.
And so that taught me a lot more about sustainable succession planning. And rather than many of my founders wanting to pursue an external exit, as I started to work with firms, I realized that this is a transferable approach of a self-sustaining, sustainable succession model that grows owners from within, retires owners out, and becomes perpetually self-sustaining. And I thought, ooh, all of my private sector companies should probably be thinking that way.
Mm.
And so it is mindset, yes. It is planning and a pathway, yes. But having the resources for personal planning and financial planning is important. Of that one architectural firm,
Mhm.
3 of them are divorcees.
Mm.
And that either impacted them getting equity, put their equity at risk.
Yeah, definitely.
One of them has a health condition. So now we're like having all sorts of insurance issues. And so they weren't doing financial planning, estate planning, and asset protection
Mm.
years ago when they should have been.
Exactly.
So I recommend all of these things. And when someone's personal plan and financial pathway aligns with their career path, that alignment is perfection.
I would think that that's again, I try to use our own business as a case study. We're really good at employee retention. And I'd like to think that as we teach them the concepts of value creation, they can align their personal goals with their financial goals and then say, well, this is the business I want to be a part of because it gets me to those goals in the most effective and efficient way. And I
Mhm.
really love what I do and I feel purpose in what I'm doing. So now you keep your same group of people together for that big 10-year vision run, and
Mhm.
it's all together. The owner's aligned, the executive team's aligned, maybe middle management is aligned, and then everybody else is aligned. And now you can imagine, we don't do this perfectly yet at EPI, but can you imagine 52 people all kind of have their shit together,
Mhm.
right? Where they're like,
Mhm.
and they feel
Amazing.
really empowered,
Mhm.
business, personal, and financial. And so,
Totally. It makes a lot of their life choices easier. It gives them confidence and clarity around their career path. It gets them asking the right questions early and having the right conversations
mm,
along the way. I definitely feel like it's really what we have the opportunity to do here is create the entrepreneurial life
yeah, true.
journey.
Yeah,
And
right.
in
It
my
is.
book, I talk about the significant life.
Yeah.
And I really thought about that word significant and all that you and your dad have taught me around significant.
Mm.
And get my clients thinking about their future legacy and what they want to create for themselves and the business, and that future outlook of a life well lived.
Yeah.
It's helps them then work back and think about what's important.
Hmm.
I think a value creator employee that's got their personal plan, financial plan, career pathway in alignment makes them a highly valuable asset to the company.
Mm-hmm.
And the company is going to be incentivized to take care of them intrinsically and extrinsically, financially, and it becomes a partnership.
Yeah, and I think it allows when that business does transition, if it does transition to an external party,
Mm-hmm.
I think most people come along with that
Yeah.
because they're not tied to the owners per se.
Connected to the company.
They're connected to the company
And their career path.
and their career path.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing. So
Mm-hmm.
we've come to our time together on vision, so I really
Amazing.
appreciate it. And we're going to start talking about rhythm in our next episode and try to bring together 3 of the 4 buckets, if you will, elements of if you will, of the value creator culture. So really appreciate your time today, and we will be back on June 10th. So please listen, leave a review, recommend the podcast. We'll be back June 10th, back with Renee talking about another bucket of value creator culture, the rhythm bucket. We'll see you next time. Thanks.